Hi all, I want to talk for a minute about a phenomenon I'm seeing a lot as I'm scoring portfolios. And it's a situation where you have an instructor who is maybe a special education teacher, RTI instructor, who has students in an academic resource room, some sort of pullout room. And this might typically be a high school teacher, and they're working with students, say, on their English language skills. So maybe it's reading out loud or identifying main ideas and textual details. But they want to do those English language skills while using a text that pertain to the students' standards for their grade level for social studies or science. So they're trying to kill two birds with one stone. And candidates typically want and need to use what they do at work to create their edTPA portfolios, but sometimes these actions don't correlate well, and let me show you how. So here, let's use this as my pretend candidate. So this candidate says that students will be able to identify main ideas supported by 3 textual details. And then they provide these standards. They will evaluate the interpretation of historical events and sources, and they'll be able to analyze the role of political symbols played in civil disobedience. And then for the first learning objective, they will use the Vietnam War for the period of study, identifying the 3 phases of war. And there's a heavy disconnect between all those things, and let me explain why. The edTPA expects that your learning goal would be a subset of the standard, and then your learning objectives would be a subset of your learning goals. So here, this standard, even though it is an important standard and the student is drawing this into the lesson, it's not the standard from which the learning goal was derived. It's a standard that's being used as a lesson activity. It's become the historical content of a lesson activity related to a standard, but it's not the standard that the learning goal was taken from. And here, the learning objective 1, where they're asking the student to identify 3 phases of war, while these might be 3 main ideas, for instance, it doesn't relate to identifying a main idea supported by 3 textual details. Like, it's not teaching. Here it feels like the emphasis is more on what does each phase of war mean, right? The beginning, the middle, the end of the Vietnam War. What theme could you give to that, right? And that is a main idea, but that's not teaching that student how to identify a main idea supported by 3 textual details. In fact, it sort of depends on the student already being able to do that in order to fulfill this lesson objective. So this lesson objective appears to relate to both of these things, but not in the way that the edTPA is expecting it to. Better would be to find the main idea using some passages about the Vietnam War from the beginning, middle, and end to identify the main idea in each of those passages, from the middle, from the beginning, and from the final phase of war. You're not identifying the 3 phases of war or the themes of them. You've just picked passages from each of those phases, and you're asking the student to identify what's the main idea in that. So be careful not to use a standard as a learning resource for your learning goal, but then leave them written in as if they're a standard, because at that point they're actually an activity, and that's where they need to go in your on your portfolio commentary. And if you fail to not see how all these together, while they might make a great lesson, would be seen as a lack of alignment in edTPA, the reasons I'm giving you is why, because what is expected to be a subset of what. And I just really hate to see good candidates fail the edTPA because their job requirements ask them to present lessons in a certain way, and they're trying to figure out where to piece them onto the commentary. So I hope this helps. And I just want to note that this is not a problem that suggests you're a poor teacher. In fact, it's a problem that suggests you're a good teacher, because people who have expertise in the field do not answer standardized tests as well as novices, for instance, because they're focused on contextual situations, and that's kind of what's affecting you in this case. So good luck, and see you around at the next vlog.